Okay, today's lesson involves solving a system by linear elimination, but these are now word problems. And before break, we learned how to solve a system by elimination. And when equations were in elimination form, remember they have to be in standard form. ax by equals c. Today, you're going to read a word problem. You're going to write a system after you've defined what variables represent. And instead of solving mathematically with elimination, I'm going to teach you how to use the graphing calculator to solve a system by elimination. So you're going to learn the properties of the graphing calculator to solve by elimination. But before we do that, let's go over some steps because these are now word problems. So there's 6 things we're going to follow. The steps in solving word problems with linear equations. First, you'll read the word problem and you're going to define the variables that you want to find. You don't have to use a let statement, but you're going to tell me what X represents as a phrase, and you're going to tell me what Y represents as a phrase, whatever the unknown is in the situation. 2, you're going to create equations. When you create equations, a system has 2 equations. So you're going to have to write 2 equations that express the information given in the problem scenario. 3, you're going to solve. And when you solve using algebra, I am going to allow you to use the graphing calculator. So remember, when you use the graphing calculator, you're going to push the purple apps button. Okay, you're pushing purple apps. You're going to go to number 9. Holly Smith, looks like that. You push any button to continue, and you're going to go into number 2, simultaneous equation solver. And I've showed you the steps of how you will get to solve the problem. Okay? 4, consider if your answer is reasonable. Does it make sense? Label your solution appropriate. That means right answer in a sentence. And then check your answer with the conditions. So make sure your problem makes sense when you choose what you write as your solution. Okay, so here's the first one. It says an exam worth 145 points. So let's think right now. If you have an exam or a test and it's worth 145 points, this 145 points is your total points. Which means something has to equal 145. Total points is 145. So it says an exam worth 145 points contains 50 questions. So I'm going to use green here because these are 2 different things. You know the total points on the test. And now, if it contains 50 questions, you know the total questions. So that first sentence there gave you 2 pieces of information. There's points and there's questions. And those are both totals, 2 different totals. And when we write systems, we have 2 equations. So I'm going to come over here and put one of our equations going to equal 145. And I'll just put points over here. You don't typically label these, but I'm labeling it because I'm not here really to answer your questions. And the other thing is equals 50 questions. Again, you're typically not labeling that. I'm labeling that because I'm not here to explain or answer any of your questions. So then I keep reading. Some of the questions are worth 2 points and some are worth 5 points. There's questions that are worth 2 points. There's questions that are worth 5 points. And then it asks you how many 2-point questions are on the test? How many 5-point questions on the test? So that question right there asks you what the unknown is. So I'm going to go over here and where it says let x equals, I'm going to write number of 2-point questions. Now some of you might want to just write 2-point questions. No, make sure you have a phrase that is measurable. This is the number of 2-point questions. Don't just write 2-point questions, write number of. Those 2 words are very important. Then we're going to make y number of 5-point questions. Because we don't know it. And once again, make sure you have the phrase number of there. I'm going to come down a little bit. Well, the 2 unknown are the number of questions that are 2 points and the number that are 5 points. And I know there are 145 points on the test, and I know there are 50 questions. So we have to use this information to come up with our system. So if I was here in class, I would ask someone if they knew what you could write, but I'm not here. So here's what I'm going to point out to you. There are 2-point questions, and those are X, and there are 5-point questions, those are Y, and that piece of information goes with 145 points. So one equation I can write is 2x plus 5y equals 145. So let's go over this. The reason it's like that, this is points, and this is points. 2 points times the number of questions plus 5 points times the number of questions equals the total points. So I need one more equation, and that equation has to equal the questions. 50 questions. So there are X questions and Y questions, and the total is 50 questions. So the second equation is X plus Y equals 50. Number of questions that are 2, number of questions that are 5, total number of questions. This is your system. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense to you. You need 2 equations. So now we're going to go to purple apps on your calculator. If I was here, I'd demonstrate it for you, but I'm not. So everybody go to purple apps. You're going to press number 9. When it comes to that Texas Instrument screen, you push any button to continue, and then you're going to go to number 2. Once you press number 2, you'll hit next, and you have that system that looks like this. Now remember, we're putting the coefficients in. So the first coefficient is a 2. The next coefficient is 5. Then there's that line on your calculator. To the right, we're going to put 145. Make sure you're hitting enter every time. On the bottom row, you're pressing 1. The coefficient of X is 1. The coefficient of Y is 1. And then 50 goes to the right. Then you're going to press solve. When you hit solve, your solution is 35, 15. Now it looks different on your calculator, it's vertical, but 35 represents X, 15 equals Y. And the last thing you have to do is write a sentence to answer the question. So we know X represented the number of 2-point questions. So we are going to say there are 35 2-point questions and 15 5-point questions. And we just did question number 1. Okay? Let's go to number 2. And I'm going to go a little bit faster through number 2 because I only have 4 minutes left here on this video. So on the back it says a total of 78 seats. I'm going to stop there. It says total. So I know something has to be 78 seats for a concert or sold, producing a total revenue of $483. That is total money. It says if seats cost either $250 or $10.50, how many of each seats were sold? Well, I know something has to equal 78 seats. You do not need to write this over here if you don't want to. And I know something has to equal $483. I need to define my variables. I need to know what the unknown is. I need an X and I need a Y. Now remember, you need to use words that are measurable. So there is tickets or seats that cost $2.50. So this is the number of $2.50 seats because we don't know how many were sold. And Y is the number of $10.50 seats. Now remember, thinking back, we need something that equals seats and something that equals money. So, if I grab my highlighter here, X is the number of seats, Y is the number of 1050 seats, and I know there are 78 seats. One of my equations can be, hopefully you realize it from the last one, X plus Y is 78. The second equation, I need money with it. So I'm going to put $2.50 X plus $10.50 Y equals $483. I'm going to ask the substitute to pause the video now if you can, so the students can try to find the solution using their calculator. Okay, after the students have had a couple minutes, I hope the sub can now play the video. And let's check your solution. So maybe they had 2 or 3 minutes to check. The solution should be 42,36. Now, if you didn't get that, make sure that you put the decimal in, that you hit enter, that you have 1, 1, and 78, 250, 1050, and 483. So the answer 42 is X, and the answer 36 is Y, and we're just going to answer the question here, and we're going to say there were 42 $2.50 seats sold, and 36 $10.50 seats sold. I think you get the gist of it with 2 questions. There's some problems in the book for homework. Make sure you follow the process. You need to define variables. You need to write 2 equations. You need to solve it using your calculator and write your answer in a sentence. And tomorrow they're going to change a little bit, so make sure you're reading them carefully. Good luck.